All right, this is accessibility part 2. We're going to review the principles of accessibility, and then I'm going to show you how to apply it in PowerPoint, actually. All right, so first of all, just a quick review of elements of accessibility. There's a lot of details here, so hang in there with me. Accessibility, the main elements are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So, perceivable has to do with making sure that everyone can perceive the information. So, some people use assistive devices like screen readers. If they're blind or they don't see well, they might be using screen magnification devices. If they're hard of hearing, they might rely more on captions instead of audio. So, we want to make sure that we open this up so everyone can access our material. So, that means when we have a picture, we want to have a text alternative so that the screen reader knows what to say when it gets to a picture. We want time-based media alternatives so that people can do things on their own pace. So something like a transcript of a video works well for this. We want to make sure that there's adaptability without losing structure. That's so that if someone's using like a screen magnification tool or something, they can still understand the hierarchy of whatever we're doing. And then making something distinguishable, easy to see and hear. This goes along with making sure for color blindness that we can see things well and the like. All right. The next one is operable. We want everyone to be able to operate our program or website or whatever. Some people, again, are going to be using assistive devices. So we want to make sure we're compatible with those. So first of all, we need to be able to access everything without a mouse. We need to make sure there's enough time to read and use content. Make sure we don't have any type of flashing or other things that can cause seizures. We need to make sure that users can navigate and find and determine where they are with things like breadcrumbs and other things that make it easy for them to understand where they are on the web page or the LMS. And then supporting those input methods beyond keyboards. Okay. Understandable. We want to make it understandable. We want to support neurodiversity so that people all along the autism spectrum can understand, people who have dyslexia or processing disorders. But really, if we make things understandable, it helps everyone. Okay, so we make it readable and understandable. We use the simplest language we can. We try to make sure that our web pages appear and operate in predictable ways. So when I click on something, I know what's going to happen and it's easy to understand the structure. And then when there's errors, we want to help users avoid errors or correct mistakes if they have the errors. Just like we talked about when we talked about the interaction design principles of showing effective error messages. And then finally, robust. We want to make sure what we create is useful with different user agencies and assistive technologies. So different types of browsers, different devices, whether they're desktops or mobile devices, and then different assistive technologies. All right, so I'm going to show you an example. Microsoft Office has a really cool tool in all of their products, I believe, at least in Word and PowerPoint, called the Accessibility Checker. And the accessibility checker helps us make sure that what we're producing is going to be able to work for everyone and that it's inclusive. And so just a quick note of why you would want it on a PowerPoint. When you're teaching, it's always nice to be able to offer the PowerPoint to students to review. This is something that I have not had enough time to do this semester, but I'm hoping when I teach this class again, I will be able to add PowerPoints that are accessible to everyone. But then the other thing is the principles of the PowerPoints here actually apply to anything else you create. So I'm going to go up here and go to Accessibility Checker. And what this does is it goes through my slides and it identifies things that might be problems. Okay, so we're just going to go through each of these overall and look at what it means. So first of all, we have graphic 5 and slide 9. It says it's missing alternative text. So this goes along with perceivable. If someone's using a screen reader, they need to be able to tell, the screen reader needs to know what to say when it gets to an image. Now, an image like this is false. The screen reader doesn't necessarily need to say anything for this because there's already words about it. So I can click the drop down and I can mark it as decorative. That means the screen reader doesn't need to read anything, and we're set. These could also be considered decorative, but we're just going to say, pretend like it didn't say Unsplash. This is the only place it said Unsplash. We would want to add alternative text so the screen reader knows what to say. So I can go here and go to Edit Alt Text, and I can either click Generate a Description for me, or I can enter my own text. When it generates a description for me, that uses artificial intelligence to identify what a good description is. Something like this, it's usually not very good. There's other times that pictures might have a good AI description, but I would just write something like Unsplash logo. That way, at least the screen reader knows that we're going to Unsplash. In fact, I would even add these other words: beautiful, free photos. And then the screen reader will know what to say when it gets there. Okay, I'm going to go back to my accessibility checker. I would do that with each of these pictures, either add an alternative text or I would mark it as decorative. All right, table has no header row. That has to do with making things understandable because I need to know like what the main things of this table are, both for a screen reader, but then also for anyone trying to read this. So I would just, first of all, make sure that this is a header. So website is kind of a header row, and I could just type information or something like that. And then over here, I can put use first row as header. That way it's now more perceivable and understandable to people. Okay. Missing slide title. A screen reader needs to know what to read first as the title of a slide. And when people are looking at a slide, they need to be able to easily glance and know what the title is. Now, the best way to prevent this problem is to actually use your master. So if I go to View and I go to Slide Master here, I can see that there's already master styles where they have a title and they have the text. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. These already designate which section is the title and which are the text. So I'm going to close Master View. When I'm adding a slide, if I start from one of these templates, it's already going to know what the title is, and then I don't have to worry about it so much. But if something happens and you don't have a slide title, then you can do the accessibility checker and change it. So if I want this to be the title, I can do the drop down and I can put as set as slide title. Okay. Another option, I'm going to skip that one because I just added that. If I actually added text in there, then it would show it. All right. This one, this says edit slide title. So this has like a hidden clear title. It has double tap to edit, but it doesn't actually say anything. So I can change it to Creative Commons Overview or something. And the cool thing is this can actually be a hidden title. If I put it up here, the screen reader will be able to read it, but it won't clutter my slide as much. So that's a decision you have to make, whether it's needed for everyone or whether it's mostly just for screen readers. And sometimes, I think some of these, they'll even, these are just missing titles. Okay, sometimes it'll help you create a hidden title. All right, so then we have some warnings. So the first is use captions for audio and video. Now, I'm not sure why PowerPoint does this because this video actually does have captions. If I click here.
The nonprofit organization Creative Commons was started.
Okay, so just make sure your videos have captions. And I think I can mark it. I guess I can't mark it done, but. And then when I come here, remember that color blindness thing where we want to make sure that things are easy to read. That contrast isn't enough. It'll give me some suggestions for changing the font color and that can help me fix it. All right. The next thing is reading order. Now, reading order has to do with the screen readers, what order it's going to read things in. And so I can go here and I can verify object order. And this is the reading order of the screen reader. So first it's going to read this picture. Well, this picture is actually decorative. I don't need it to read this picture. So I'm just going to uncheck it and change it to decorative. The reason that, let me just back up just briefly. The reason that this didn't need an alt text is when you actually download pictures directly from PowerPoint, when you do the insert and search for a picture, a lot of time it'll already have an alt text for you, just so you know. All right, back to reading order. So then I want it to read Title I Accessibility Part 2. I want it to read the subtitle, but I don't need it to read this attribution. That's not necessary. It's decorative because if you don't see the picture, you don't need the attribution. Okay? So I can do the same thing. Check slide order. Let's look at slide 9 and say verify object order. Title, read the title first. Content placeholder. I do not need it to read that. There's nothing there. In fact, I could probably just delete this and it would be fine too. It doesn't change anything. Okay. There's a picture. We've marked it as decorative, so it's not going to read it. This picture right here actually has an alternative text. So it'll read the alternative text, it'll read this alternative text, and then it'll read the table. So I just make sure those are in the order that I want them in. All right, back to accessibility texture checker. So that is our reading order. And then sometimes it has tips, like right now we have 2 titles somehow. And I can edit this and figure out why there's 2 titles. There might be a hidden title, or this might be set as title. So what we can see, okay, what happens when I delete this, and it'll, okay, and now it doesn't have another title. So my guess is that this was marked as title. So I can format that. I would just add a new slide and just copy this in so it's formatted correctly. Okay. Now, once we're done with all that and we have the accessibility complete, and it'll complete itself out, it'll even say here, it'll check as you go if you like. Then I also need to make this robust. I need to make sure that even if people don't have PowerPoint, they can still access this. So that means I'm going to actually save it as an Adobe PDF. Okay. Another way to do that is to do print and then print as PDF, Microsoft Print to PDF or some other PDF, Adobe PDF. I have the full reader on my computer, but those are some options. PDF is good because it is very universal. You can read PDFs on different devices, different operating systems. So it's always good to save something as a PDF before you share it. All right. So that's how you can make slides accessible. You can do the same thing in Word documents, in learning management systems, etc. And just good practice to always make sure that things are fully accessible. Thanks for watching.